Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Sergeant Boyle Estheimer, narrator for today's ceremony, as we pay tribute to Colonel Lan Skalla on his retirement from the Georgia State Defense Force. Throughout the ceremony, you will receive cues to stand and sit at the appropriate times. As a reminder, during the national anthem, military members should stand at attention, and our civilian guests should stand and place their right hand over their hearts. Officiating today's ceremony is Brigadier General Dennis Watts, the Commanding General of the Georgia State Defense Force. Today, we have Colonel Skalla's wife, Dana, his son, Clayton, as well. The chaplain for the invocation.
Let us pray. Lord God, we come to you this morning praying that you will guide this ceremony, lead its way, and thank you for letting us be a part of celebrating and congratulating Colonel Skalla in his retirement. Pray that this will lead your way according to your will and your path. Ask for all these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. It is now my pleasure to introduce the Adjutant General of Georgia, General Major Thomas Carden.
Thanks. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Everybody hear me okay? Hey, I may use this thing and I may not. I can't tell you what an honor it is to just be in the same room with a bunch of professional volunteers and those who make their service possible to start with. So it's a great day for Georgia DOD, certainly a great day for our Defense Force, and a great day for Team Skalla. For all of our previously recognized distinguished guests, thank you for taking the time to be here today. I think it's great that we got some new members of the team that get to witness this. As I talked with Colonel and Mrs. Skalla a little bit earlier, you know, when you start reflecting on a career that's 38 years, I have a talk with a lot of our service members about their retirement ceremonies, and a lot of people don't want to do it. They'll say, well, sir, I don't want to be in any trouble. I don't want to make a big deal out of it. But as I shared with this family today, it's certainly has a lot to do with the service member and their service to the team. But I'll tell you, it has a whole lot more to do, I think, with the family. With a family that served and sacrificed and made Colonel Skalla's 38-plus years of service possible. So today's ceremony is also an educational opportunity. It's about protecting and developing our profession, right? Helping us get a little bit better. And so we ought not to miss the opportunity to sort of teach, coach, and train one another about this profession and about what we do for the state and by extension, what you all do for the nation through your service. Today's ceremony is based on some very important pillars in our culture. Our culture is one that honors service of those who've answered a calling that's larger than their own self-interest. And I always brag on our State Defense Force because you are volunteers in the truest sense of the word. Our entire military is composed of an all-volunteer force. But the volunteerism that our State Defense Force exhibits through their service, not compensated, buying your own uniforms, buying your own gas, giving unselfishly of your time and your talent, really demonstrate that you are volunteers in the truest sense of the word. And so we certainly appreciate, acknowledge that today. We also honor the accomplishments and the sacrifice, and many of them are represented by Colonel Skalla and also by Colonel Skalla's family. We honor the investment that Colonel Skalla has made in service members and families across our formation. I know that I've personally benefited from his engaged leadership. Our relationship goes all the way back to the floods of 1994. I think may have been the first time that I met Colonel Skalla down in Albany, Georgia, and the local community, and really a large portion of our state south of Macon was just decimated with heavy flood impacts. And there was the State Defense Force, and there was then, I think, Major Skalla helped coordinate how we respond, recover, mitigate, alleviate unnecessary suffering from our neighbors. And so it was a huge lesson to me and kind of impacted me throughout my career. Little did I know that here we are in 2024, right, talking about his retirement. But I'll tell you, your example, Lan, has not only meant a lot to me personally and professionally, it's meant a lot to our entire team. Today's ceremony, as I mentioned earlier, is about honoring the family that shaped and supported the price of service as much as any of us in uniform. And I'm sure that Dana and Clay can attest, right? If Lan's out wearing his uniform and pumping gas into the Hummer, somebody's probably going to come up and say, hey, thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for your service. I'm sure you've seen it. And then sometimes they look at you and sometimes they don't. But nobody's probably ever come up to Dana or Clay unsolicited at the gas pump and said, hey, thanks for sucking it up, right? On all those weekends and all those different events that you were literally having to sacrifice and support your family member while they were out supporting and helping their neighbors across this state. And I just we cannot, our organization, really, we don't have the words to thank you all for what you've done to enable land service and to make this day possible. So we don't get many opportunities to thank our families, and this is one of those rare opportunities. I just ask that we give this family a hand and to say thank you. So today marks sort of an end, a closing of one chapter of 38 plus years, and it also represents what I'm sure is the opening of another chapter, because Lan's going to have some additional time on his hands, Dana. So you're going to have to figure it out. But in all seriousness, right, this is an important rite of passage in our service life, right? This is the reason we have high school graduations and college graduations and different sorts of ceremonies to mark the closing of one chapter and the opening of another one. Now, what will remain consistent, I believe, and what I certainly hope, Lan, is that you will always identify yourself as a member of the Georgia National Guard and Georgia DOD. You've mentored and grown the next generation of soldiers, and your example will soldier on through them. And so I do certainly like doing retirement ceremonies because I think it's a debt, right, that we need to pay to our teammates, right, of recognition, of thanks. The thing I don't like about retirement ceremonies, sort of sounds like I'm giving a eulogy up here. But in reality, today is a celebration of service, right? It is a celebration of really a monumental achievement. I mean, I'm not going to do math in public, right? That always ends bad. If you start thinking about a little bit of math, right, a decimal point and zeros, and you start thinking about how many people served 38 plus years doing anything, right? I don't know how many zeros come after that decimal point, but in my South Georgia mathematics, I'm going to say it's a bunch or a heap of them, right? So there's a lot of zeros. So you join, I think, a very rare and important fraternity today, Lan, as you retire with 38 plus years of service. You know, so being sad about it in a way, and knowing that we won't have you here day in and day out doing what you've done for the last 38 years doesn't distract me from the fact that today is a victory lap for Team Skalla, and it's an important victory lap. So the best you can ever say for a soldier is that they just did their duty. And so today I wanted to come here and made a special effort to be here so I could stand before you humbled and honored just to say thank you, Colonel Skalla, for your service. You have absolutely done your duty and then some, as has your family. May God bless you all. May God bless the state of Georgia and the United States of America. Thank you again for letting me be here today.
It is now my pleasure to introduce the Georgia State Defense Force Commanding General, Brigadier General Dennis Watts.
This is in many ways an exciting day, but also a sad day, you know, all the same. There's a lot of emotions that run through because this man sitting over here on the right has touched so many people in this room over the years, and he has made such an impact on what the Georgia State Defense Force is and is to be. It would be impossible to enumerate that. I will say, when I first met Colonel Skalla, then Major Skalla, down in Albany, we had some conversations and observed some of the things he was doing, and I really liked what he did because I've never met anybody with more energy, with more attention to detail, with more wanting to do more in my life than Lan Skalla. And at the time, I was in our G3 shop, and we were trying to build some initiatives and do some things. And I thought, well, I need somebody with energy. I need somebody with detail. I need somebody with passion. And I asked him if he'd be willing to drive up at the time to Old Confederate Avenue at Building 8 and help us in the G3 shop do some things. And he thought about it just a little bit. He said, I'd be honored to. I'd be happy to. And as the tag said, that is just a small tippet of the sense of service that this man brings to everything he does. I am proud to know him. I'm actually proud to call him my friend. I will go to dinner with him anytime. If he needs something from me, I'll be happy to do so. Again, for every beginning, there's an end. For every end, there's a new beginning. And for Lan, a man of unending energy, there are so many beginnings out there for you. I mean, you're already doing so much anyway in between. I don't think you're going to see any more of him than you do now, Dana, truthfully. He's just that kind of guy. But I'm proud of what he has done, proud of what he has brought to us, proud of the contributions that he has made. I do want to, this is not taken away from the seriousness of this, but I do want to relate that some folks sitting in here in this room know when Lan and Dana got married, all of a sudden the email traffic from Lan went from about 1,000 a day to about a third of that, and that lasted for a good while, so thank you for that, Dana. That gave us all a little peace and quiet as we went on. I hope you know that we are as proud of Lan as I know you and Clay are. We're going to miss him, but in taking a scene out of one of my favorite John Wayne movies, she wore a yellow ribbon when Nathan Brittle retired. What they did, they sent out one of his troopers to come back and grab him and say, hey, we need you to come back and be our chief of scouts. So I'm sure at some point in time we'll send a galloping horse after Lan and say, hey, come back. We need your talent. We need your help to help us go this way. And I know he will respond.
I will be there.
Yep. So, you know, on behalf of all of us, there are no words to really thank you enough for what you have done. Again, I'm so proud to know you and proud of what you've done with our organization. We're going to miss you, but we're going to move on, and a lot of what we're moving on to, bigger and better things, your fingerprint is on those things. So, Lan, from the bottom of my and all of our hearts, thank you so much for what you've done.
Thank you, Brigadier General Watts. Colonel Skalla, please come forward. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the presentation of awards. Attention to orders. Permanent orders 600-1-202-31201-001, December 1st, 2023. Award of the Georgia Distinctive Service Medal. Under the provisions of Georgia Code Title 38, 38-22-283, Military, Emergency Management, and Veteran Affairs, and Georgia Department of Defense Regulation 600-1, decorations, service medals and ribbons, and other awards and decorations. For Meritorious Act, achievement, or service rendered to the state of Georgia, this military decoration is presented to Colonel Lan Skalla, Headquarters, Georgia State Defense Force, for exceptionally distinctive and outstanding service throughout 41 years of federal and state military service, culminating as Assistant Chief of Staff and Assistant to the Deputy Commanding General in the Georgia State Defense Force. Colonel Lan Skalla oversaw the plans and operations through 4 different commanding generals. In addition, his professionalism, care of soldiers, and devotion to duty contributed significantly to the assistance rendered to the soldiers and their families during mission operations. These accomplishments, in keeping with the finest traditions of military service, reflect great credit upon this individual, the Georgia Department of Defense, and the state of Georgia. By order of the governor, as signed by Todd K. Gallagher, Lieutenant Colonel, GASDF, Assistant Chief of Staff, G1. Thank you, Major General Carden. Please be seated. You're going to stay. Colonel Dirk Dobby, the Georgia State Defense Force Chief of Staff, will recognize Colonel Skalla on behalf of the Association of the Georgia State Defense Force.
We have a association that Lan has been a big part of. Our dinners, our ceremonies and things outside of uniform, Lan has always been there to contribute. So on behalf of the association and the soldiers in the SDF, we'd like to present you with this plaque that says, "For all your dedication, hard work, and leadership for the Georgia State Defense Force and the citizens of Georgia from May 1985 to January 2004. Also, on behalf of the command staff, we'd like to present you with this officer's.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Dobby. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the promotion and retirement of Colonel Lan Skalla. Major General Carden, Brigadier General Watts, and Mrs. Skalla, please come forward. Attention to orders. Promotion and retirement from the Georgia State Defense Force. Permanent Order 614-1-20240105-001, January 2024. By the direction of the Adjutant General of the State of Georgia, you are promoted and retired from active service and transferred to the state retired list as follows. Rank, grade, Brigadier General, 07. Effective date, 06, January 2024. Authority, OCGA 38-2-9. By order of the Governor, as signed by Thomas M. Carden Jr., Major General, Georgia Army National Guard, the Adjutant General. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, Brigadier General Lan Skalla.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I just got a few remarks. One thing, I can't let this go without echoing the thanks to my wife and my son. Without their support, I would not have been able to do for State Defense Force what I've been able to do. They've supported me entirely. Most of you don't know, but flood of '98, my son was 15 years old, 14 years old, 15. He participated in the flood of '98. The National Guard needed help. They needed some drums from our company. Guard members in town didn't know where to go, what to do. He rode with Captain Jack Clay of the Georgia Army National Guard in their Hemet, and he directed them around town, took them to get the drums he needed. He was right out there with us. Me and Clay and Tom Carden. And so he's been a supporter as well. People I want to thank, I have been through 9 commanding generals, counting Brigadier General Watts, in my tenure in the State Defense Force. I've been through 8 adjutant generals. Major General Tom Carden is the finest adjutant general I have ever served under, bar none. I came in under Brigadier General Joe Griffin, and we've had some good tags. General Girard set the stage for the State Defense Force. He really did a lot for us in getting us forward and melded in with the Guard. Major General Tom Carden, he stood the test of time. He's the first tag we've had that's been totally forward-looking. He sees tomorrow, he sees next year, he sees next week. He really put the State Defense Force on the map with the National Guard. When I first came in, Guard had no clue who we were. When I came to the 3 shop under Colonel Watts at the time, half the people at the Joint Operations Center had no clue who the State Defense Force was. We had a time trying to get our SAT orders approved. The process was bogged, and we had stand-up people. Now General Haldopoulos was the J3 when I came in. That transitioned to Colonel Perry Carter. Colonel Carter's the one to thank for the mission request process we have. He and, at the time, Captain Daniel Bodie are the ones that came together and said, hey, this process stinks. Y'all deserve better. And they worked out a process, which is our current MRF process. And then Colonel Jeff Dixon came along as the J3, and he streamlined it further to where we are now. So there's been a lot of progress made in the State Defense Force. And the help we've gotten from Major General Crumley, General Wilson, Colonel Brown and the Jock, all the J3s. I've been through, I think, 6 J3s since I was the G3. The question was always, what can we do for the State Defense Force? Anything they could do to help us out, they did, and really turned the tables for the State Defense Force. Now, I've been in uniform, some type of uniform, since my ROTC days in 1965. I'm a volunteer by heart. I was on the volunteer rescue team in Tampa Bay when I was in the Air Force down there. Been a member of the Albany-Doherty County Search and Rescue Team since 1979 or 76. Too far back for me to even remember. 10 years in the Coast Guard Auxiliary. 12 years in the United States Power Squadron. I'm a life member with them. I've been through a lot of volunteer agencies. I have never been in a volunteer agency that comes anywhere close to equaling the Georgia State Defense Force. There's, without the doubt, this is the finest group of men and women that I have ever served with in my entire volunteer and professional career. It's never, we don't want to go, what's it going to pay, what are we going to get? It's always, when do you need us, how many, how long do you need us to stay, we'll be there. We've been the first on the ground in every major disaster in Georgia since 1994. We hit the ground before anybody because we're easiest to deploy. We can be on the move in a heartbeat, and we're there, and we do the job, and we stay as long as it takes. We walk away from our families. Our employers are lenient with us, will let us get off and work and come serve the citizens of Georgia. It's what we do. And so my biggest thanks here today is to you people out here. You're the reason I'm here. I had a reason to serve, a great group of people to serve for. Glad I was able to do it. And I want to go back again, Major General Carden, Tom, I can't tell you how much I am pleased that you took the time and the effort to come here today. And Joe Ferrero, we've great friendship over the years, going to miss you for sure. I appreciate you being here. I know it's a lot out of y'all's busy day to come across the state, and I think Major General Carden came from Fort Stewart. He was going to fly, had to drive because of the weather, so that's a chore in itself. And really appreciate the time that you took to come and be here with us today and make this an important. Lee Martin, glad you were here. See Colonel Hannah back there, one of our former JAGs. Command Sergeant Major Patrick O'Leary, we grew up together in the 3 shop, 23 years there, from Building 8 at Confederate Avenue. Lee Martin, G3 over me, first inaugural commander of TRADOC, able to make it today. And really appreciate you taking the time to come out. My close friend, Randy Brinson, we've been business friends and personal friends since what, 79? 79. And Randy Brinson's a veteran, former Vietnam veteran. So glad to have you here today also. Again, thank you all also very much for making this a wonderful, wonderful retirement ceremony.
Brigadier General Watts, Chief Mayor, please come forward. Mrs. Skalla, please come forward. You can leave your flowers there if you want. You can leave your flowers there if you want. The point was not for you to bring them up. At this time, the Georgia State Defense Force would like to honor Mrs. Skalla. Although the spouse does not wear the uniform, she serves too because she supports her spouse in service. On behalf of the Georgia State Defense Force, please accept a certificate of appreciation and a gift of flowers for the many years of service supporting Brigadier General Skalla and the GSDF.
Thank you, baby. Tell me what to do next.
Okay. PAO, yes. Please remain standing as we take a few pictures. PAO would like to take a few photos of Brigadier General Skalla and the family.
I'd also, while we're doing, like to get a picture with Command Sergeant Major O'Leary and Colonel Martin and Randy Brinson.
So guests,
like
you
to
can go
have
ahead and take a
Joe
seat. We're just
Ferrero.
going to take a couple minutes just to take a few quick photos, please. You can come up here.
Let's, hey,
Go ahead.
Colonel Duncan,
Go ahead, Colonel Duncan.
we'll end the ceremony first, then
Okay.
we'll take pictures,
Okay, sounds good. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the singing of the Army song. Then it's high, high, hey, the Army's on its way. Count off the cadence loud and strong. For wherever we go, you will always know that the Army goes rolling along. The soldiers of the Georgia State Defense Force are proud to have served with Brigadier General Skalla and wish him continued success and Godspeed. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Brigadier General Skalla will receive guests here at the podium immediately following the ceremony. Please stay for the reception. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.